Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. Are you ready for COVID-23? I mean, we've already been hearing about COVID-21, but what about COVID-23? COVID-24? I mean, we could just have it every year, right? Many of us, since the beginning of this, has kind of gotten the feeling that this has all been planned out, that it isn't just a coincidence that this random disease has popped up out of nowhere, and it just so happened at the time that the global community was just ready to take advantage of it and reset our society into some new great utopian. No, it's not a coincidence. I believe fully that it is planned out, and more, almost daily, are we seeing things to only just justify and back up and reinforce the ideas that you and I have that this is all planned out. Before we get started, I want to thank you for stopping by to watch. And if you wouldn't mind to click the like and subscribe button below, helps get the message out. This video is most likely going to be very controversial according to YouTube standards. So I'm not monetizing it. We'll see if it even gets deleted. If it does, it will show up on other places like BitChute. And we'll try to get the message out there. There are some affiliate links down below in the description to places that you can pick up some preparedness and homesteading products that can help you out. If you're so inclined to do so, thank you for using those affiliate links because it helps us do what we're doing here on the channel. So a few months back, someone that you're all too familiar with by the name of Bill Gates did an interview on late night TV. And we're going to talk about that, and I'm going to show you a clip of that. Some might say, oh, he's just talking about, hypothetical what ifs. But people like him, they don't do that kind of stuff. They talk, usually the things that they say they mean, and they're very serious, even though they may laugh and act like it's a big joke, which he does in this interview. But he talks about Pandemic 2. He talks about how what we're going through, is what he calls Pandemic 1. And then there's a second pandemic, Pandemic 2. And that the things that we are doing right now, or that the government is wanting to do, and the health community, the global health community is trying to push upon us, is only getting us better prepared for Pandemic 2. Let's listen to what he says here.
Most of the work we're going to do to be ready for Pandemic 2 or Pandemic 2.
Pandemic 2. He goes on to say, like I said, how all the precautions and the basically habits that they're trying to get us to create, like wearing a mask and social distancing, all the way up to contact tracing, and even phone apps that can basically detect if you have a fever, if you're ill, and report that in. Listen to what he has to say about that.
I call this Pandemic 1. Most of the work we'll do to be ready for that are also the things we need to do to minimize the threat of bioterrorism.
I don't think that it's any just coincidence that also the things that he's talking about just kind of fit with all the Great Reset and other globalist health precautions. This guy, he's, I don't even really have to go into detail about him. You all know who he is and what he's about. Gavi, the organization or charity or whatever that he started, they won the Nobel Peace Prize for this year. Did you hear that? Yes, because of their humanitarian efforts in dealing with global food crisis. And they even called it the hunger pandemic or the food pandemic. The programming that's coming from the information that these guys are letting out, and thrusting upon us is a little bit, it's more than a little bit. It's quite obvious. And it's a shame that the average person on the street is not getting it. This great reset, we've talked about it in length, especially from a financial aspect and a technological aspect, because those are two major points that they want to usher in and change. But one of the things that we haven't talked about in length with it is the health issues. And if you look at the Great Reset, they refer to it as global health governance. And what we are probably going to see in the future is either this shift or this attempted shift to where everything is based on health. We want global free health care. We want everyone's health to be closely monitored and absolutely controlled by people that have, well, of course, our best interest at heart. They really aren't hiding this anymore. In fact, so much so that there is a new movie that is coming out soon by the name of Songbird. I've talked about it before, and some of you are familiar with it. This is a movie by Michael Bay. It is believed that this movie is designed to basically be predictive programming, to let us know ahead of time what is coming. Now, are they doing it because of the goodness of their heart to kind of give us a warning, or is it to desensitize us so much so that when it happens in reality, we aren't really even thinking about it? It's like, it's okay. I mean, this is what we've been watching in movies. I mean, it worked fine for them, so it'll be okay for us. Let's watch a little clip. And when I started off by saying COVID-23, you'll see in this clip where that's come from.
All unauthorized citizens must stay indoors.
Tensions rise as we enter the 213th week of lockdown.
A grim new reality emerges.
Covid23 has
Data confirms the virus attacks the brain tissue.
Rises to over 110 million.
all infected Americans are being forced into quarantine
So
camps.
they refer to COVID-23, and the movie takes place a couple of years from now. And from everything that we're learning about the movie, even though it hasn't come out yet, basically it's continually mutated. As you saw in the clip, there are millions of people that have died, and if you have it, if you have the fever, then you go into quarantine. You go into a big quarantine camp. If you try to get away, you're shot and killed. It goes on in the trailer to say that if you try to get away, then they have shoot on sight orders. Is this really how it's going to end up? Is this the world that you and I are facing? We don't really know. But we do know that Hollywood has a way, and there's plenty of evidence showing that they have worked with the government and government agencies in the past to release information ahead of time and to try to desensitize us and prepare the public for what's about to happen. So there is a possibility that what we're seeing in this movie, that at least some of it will come about. We do know for a fact, though, by looking at the documents and the videos from the World Economic Forum, the Great Reset, and Bill Gates and the Bill Gates Foundation, certain government drills and training that they've done, such as Dark Winter and Event 201, where they have done studies on a military and an academic level to assess the outcome and the response from the public if a global pandemic happened. I know from my personal training in the past of working for the government that it was always believed that a pandemic would probably be the absolute worst thing that we could go through. And here we are being told that we are under this horrible, deadly disease that has a 99% survival rate or even higher. We're seeing now daily in the news of the increased case count. We're seeing these horrific stories from CNN about people that are still not believing that it's real, that even on their deathbed, people are still saying that they don't believe that there's really a virus that's killing them. We're seeing lockdowns become more and more every day in cities, large cities, and even states. We're even seeing states that we wouldn't think would be so quick to lock down, and they're doing it. For instance, Utah, North Dakota, there's going to be pressure on that. I believe it was this morning, that Joe Biden had been, he basically said that he wants to encourage governors to institute and enact mandates, health mandates, to help stop the spread or slow the spread of the virus. This is something that I figured he would do all along, long before he would ever become president, even, if he does in fact become president, that he would take this time, this transition period, to try to show that he has more authority than President Trump by pressuring governors to do this. This second wave is working out a lot like I thought it would. The first wave was to get everyone to get them the feel of it, to understand what it's like. And then the second wave was going to be way worse. And I believe this entire crisis, health crisis, is really more or less a beta test for what's to come. I mean, and I think that's what that clip early on with Bill Gates, where he talked about, pandemic 1 and then pandemic 2. I think that's what it is. I think what we are living in right now is one big beta test to get us ready, get the infrastructure in place, and get you and I ready to live every day with all these restrictions on our lives. I mean, he's even talked about that it could take years, 5, maybe 10 years, before things could ever go back to normal. And even then, they wouldn't be normal. It'd be a new normal. But that these precautions and social distancing rules and mandates for face coverings and so on and so forth, these could last for years. This is a perfect way for them to push forward with their plan. I mean, if everyone is terrified of this deadly disease that's spreading all over the world, killing less than 1% of the population, then, and they can hype that up to make you completely terrified, then a lot of the other things that they're wanting to do to control us will work out just fine. Digital dollars. I mean, that works perfectly, using digital currency, because, well, you don't want to use paper currency and actually make contact with someone, and you're not going to be going into stores anymore. You're going to be doing all your purchasing online. All of these things that you don't need personal contact with to purchase. Well, a digital currency works a lot better, right? Not having personal contact with each other works fine. This whole essential employee thing. I have a feeling that what this essential employee thing is saying, that those of you that aren't essential, you just stay home and we'll replace your jobs with some type of robotics or AI or something like that. And we're seeing this transition. We've talked about on this channel over and over again about the Great Reset and this transition that they're wanting to do. And I think some of us think that this is something they're wanting to convince us to do. They're trying to get governments to enact it. But the reality is they're doing it right before our eyes. They're making this transition. They're making this reset, like what we saw with Justin Trudeau in Canada. They're talking about it right now, that we have to take advantage of this opportunity. Prince Charles of the United Kingdom have said that. We have to take advantage of this opportunity that we've been given by COVID-19 to cause a great reset across the planet, to change our entire system of how we do business, how we enact with each other, how we view our health, how we view the environment, and they wrap it up in a nice, pretty package. But we have to look past that wrapping and see what they're doing. And what they're doing is taking over our lives, controlling our lives and telling us what we cannot and can do, telling us what we can own and what we cannot own, telling us where we can go and where we can't go, where we can go to worship, where we can go to eat, when we can go to our family's house, when we can seek relatives. I mean, has anyone really thought about these mandates that we're hearing now about, say, Thanksgiving, that a lot of these states are saying there can be no more than 10 people in your home for Thanksgiving? Has anyone ever stopped to ask, where in the world does the government on any level, from the local to state to the federal, have any jurisdiction to tell you what you do in your home? You're not committing a crime by just having 11 people in your home, but they're telling you that you cannot have more than 10 people in your home. They're telling you what you can do in your home. Since the founding of this nation, what we do inside our home has been very sacred. The castle doctrine is not just a law in some states. It's actually a very much a mentality that this nation has always held true, that what your home is your castle. That's why we have an amendment that you cannot the government cannot quarter troops in your home, because your home is your castle. But now they're telling us how many people you can have in it. In fact, in New York, they have city officials going around with binoculars looking into people's homes, trying to figure out how many people they have in their homes to determine whether they have too many people. They're doing that in the Jewish communities. Go look it up. It's there. The amount of control that is being allowed without anyone really stopping it is kind of overwhelming. It's really mind-blowing. We have a military operation called Warp Speed, where we're using the military to distribute the vaccine. I made a video over on Patreon if you want to go check that one out. Is it forced? Maybe not. But wouldn't you think that someone standing there in a military uniform telling you that you need to do this for the good of your country is going to be a whole lot more intimidating to the average person than just the nurse or even the doctor telling you that, hey, we've got this vaccine? Someone in uniform is definitely more intimidating. Why do we have the military? I'm not preaching against vaccines. If you want to have one, that's your choice. But forcing someone to have one, compelling someone to have one, intimidating someone to have one, the government has already dropped $12 billion in research for something that seems absolutely ridiculous, that they have something already when it takes 5 to 10 years to develop a vaccine. And here in just a few months' time, we have it. And it's really not been tested on anyone, and everyone's just going to line up and take it just because the government says so, because we're terrified. We've spent $12 billion at least in research, and everyone's going to line up and at these places all over. I can just imagine something like out of a dystopian movie where people are just lining up under army tents so that they can get their vaccine to protect them because they have a 0.5% chance of dying from it or something. Folks, we need to wake up and we need to get ready, because I think all the signs are pointing that they are in fact using this. They are flat out telling us that they're using this health crisis as a way to change everything. And if it's not this one, then as Bill Gates said, it's going to be pandemic 2. And it'll be happening before we know it. Dr. Fauci and several others have also indicated this, that this was only going to be the first one, that there'll be more after it, and we have to get ready. Shelves are already drying up in some areas. There's already restrictions, some pretty heavy restrictions in some areas. Just last week, I don't know if you saw it, Dallas, Texas, there were tens of thousands of cars, several thousands of cars lined up. I think they said somewhere around 25,000 lined up at food banks to receive food because they were hungry. They didn't have the money to buy food, and they needed food for Thanksgiving. We're going to start seeing this kind of stuff more and more. We saw it back in March and April and May, and here we are going into the winter. Joe Biden, once again the other day, said that we are headed into a very dark winter. A dark winter. Go over on Patreon. I made a video on dark winter also, and you can watch that one. you better be getting ready for this. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to hype it up. I'm just telling you what they are saying. Don't listen to me. Listen to what they're telling you. They're telling you flat out what they're getting ready to do. And I believe that the lockdowns and the controls that we're going to see starting implementing are going to be pretty harsh. Look at what they're doing in Australia. Look at what they're doing in the United Kingdom, what they're doing in other countries in Europe. Most likely at some point we're going to start seeing that stuff happen here in several cities and maybe even statewide. So folks, get ready. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.